June 17th, regular meeting of the Warren's Historic Commission. We have a roll call, we have a quorum. First on the agenda, some minutes. Regular meeting, June 3rd, site visit, 501 Main Street. Any questions on the minutes? Make a motion.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have the June 3rd site visit at 80 Baker Street. Anyone make a motion?
So moved.
Motion by me, we have a second.
Second.
Second by Joan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have May 20th regular monthly meeting minutes. Any comments or questions?
Move to accept.
Okay, have a motion to accept. You have a second?
Second.
Second by Carol, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next we have built into the agenda, public comment. Anybody has anything to bring up germane to historic preservation in Warren? Hearing none. We'll go to old business. Linda and Henry Blade, 80 Baker Street. Good evening. Hi.
Hi, you guys.
Hello.
Thank you again for all of that you do. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, we went to your house and had a site visit
Yes.
and looked at all the work you're doing down there, which is great. Tried to focus in on all the details and such. We're going to come back with some detailed drawings of the various components that were being discussed, corner boards and window treatments and all of that, with measurements and stuff, so we could try to get on the same page with everything. As far as I know, that's how we left it, right?
Yeah, I think these are the same drawings, right?
So,
Is there anything else?
yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
what we just got was what had been previously submitted, which, you know, didn't have any dimensions or details that we were looking for. So we were able to provide those at this time.
I've have what you guys have here. And I showed that to Bob Major, and he said that we'd be using these photographs and the house itself to replicate what we need to do according to dimensions and everything that are there. And he suggested then that I put forward this project scope and we go through that. Could then say that's okay, or if you need further information. Unfortunately, Bob couldn't be here tonight, but he'd be more than happy to meet with you guys again.
Yeah, we're really,
on site.
that was great news to see that you hired him as a consultant.
He really knows a lot. I thought I could do some of it myself, most of it, all of it myself, but there's just too many questions. You know what the story is.
Yeah,
And
no, he's
he
great.
and Roque have worked together.
Yep.
And I find out also Roque does not work without somebody like him, so that's good.
Yeah,
And so I'm looking forward to that. We just met with them today, and the window guy finalizing that order, and he'll be helping with that and overseeing everything else going forward.
that's great.
But he suggested that describing the conditions as we've done here and what we plan to do, explain what it is, he thought that would be sufficient in order to move ahead. And we're not doing any openings. We're not building any new construction additions. We are going to be extending one of the windows, but that's to make it to the normal size that it was. It's really pretty straightforward. And since we've talked to Davison, and since you guys have come to the on-site, and after talking with Bob, it's pretty clear what needs to be done, and that's what he's outlined here. We could go through those if it makes sense for you.
It's got some dimensions in here as well.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to summarize this, we don't need to read it verbatim, but
I just went through the first piece there, saying that we're going to try to preserve as much as possible, and where everything is missing or damaged, you're allowed to replace it. We'll replace it with in-kind materials, etc. The water table boards, and there are some pictures of it in these photographs here. On each corner of the house are the water boards, and there are two columns that come down to the water boards. And where the water boards are at the bottom of the not the shingles, the siding. Would be
clapboard.
this photograph, you might see, this is the water board here.
Yep.
There's a gap right on virtually all of them. And that was going to be replaced with a piece that would be inserted. I think that's what it says right there, extending out about 1/2 inch. It will only go up to the corner board. In other words, this picture too, you can see that the gap would come here and it would stop here. Or stop here. The next thing we would then put corner boards here and here. Would be on the, sorry, trim for the corner boards. That trim design comes from front of the house there where we're using
Flat stock.
flat stock. Thank you very much. The number 3 is painting over the shadow lines. That's what I just covered. The window caps in these photographs have 2 pictures. The one window is the window beforehand. Here shows all the trim is missing. There's a gap up here at the top. I have another photograph of that gap that shows, you're gonna love this. This is the upper right-hand corner of the window there. And you can see it's a gap that comes in just like so. The thing is cut here. And so that was the extent of the overhanging drip caps or caps that go over the top of the windows. We installed something much larger. That was on Roque's initiative. And we're going to take those back to the edges. That's what's described in the scope document. Window caps. Number 5 is missing mold trim, but replacing that to cover the shadows. I measured those pretty carefully, 2 3/16 inch, and again following flat profile trim with a proportionate depth of about 5/8. The window sills, that's pretty self-explanatory, but it'll match the same profile. We've already done several of them.
Mhm.
And the last one is repairing soffits and gable ends and everything else with like wood and matching dimensions and profiles. Again, those profiles will come from the front door. He told me, I think Eileen had mentioned it, above the front door, there's caps that are on top of it. And those, he says, are what would be the basis for the same caps at the very tops of the tops of the corners up there.
Mhm.
He's going to be looking for that. I anticipate that we have an idea of what those trim pieces would be within 2 weeks, and I can forward those to Maya for you guys. There was another change. Bob had a good look at the foundation there. It's been parged on the outside, which goes back to a long time. And it shows shadow lines of the original blocks in there. We were thinking of taking off the cement parging on the outside, revealing the stone. And then you guys have approved that. But Bob says this might be more historic to leave it as it is and try to repair it the way it is.
Mhm.
Any thoughts on that, you guys? I've
Well,
seen plenty of houses around with that kind of
It's,
treatment.
it was done because people didn't want to take the time to repoint it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, it's up to you. You can leave it. There's nothing saying you can't leave it. But,
Bob's kind of a guy for preserving as much of the historic fabric of the house as possible.
Yeah, he's very good like
yeah, I know, even though, I mean, that's probably from the 1940s or, you know, who knows? you know.
Okay, yeah, and then that's a point, you know, it's like the asphalt that was shingles that were on there were
right.
basically historic.
It was
at this
probably
point.
done at the same time,
A few
actually.
more years and I'll be historic.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about doing that. Let's see, restoring the second window. Yeah, that was a shorter window.
Right.
On site, you
On
might
the back.
remember.
Yep.
Yep.
And we're just going to increase that up. On the back side, there's new windows that were put in 10 years ago. And there's also just missing trim and everything around there. That's on the rear, and we just duplicate that. So this is our project scope going forward.
Mhm.
Bob thought that this would be sufficient enough for you guys to say, okay, let's have a look again in another month. And we're going to go ahead with it.
Yeah, I think to get everybody, as we had discussed, to get everybody on the same page, it would be great to have, you know, the details of these specifically. And the casings as well, because I know they all have that bead
Perhaps
feature.
you could let me know what you want to talk with Bob about it.
Yeah. You don't need to draw the whole house or anything. I think just some details about what specifically is going to be where, so that
Flat stock too. I mean, it might be.
everybody can be on the same page.
The only concern I have is it, you know, sorry, moving forward.
Go ahead.
You know, the language here is about putting in trim. I'll just say trim to be general, but most of the time it's some sort of drip edge to fill gaps above windows, above water tables, between water table, first clappers, that sort of thing. And I guess my concern is that that kind of dimension would never, it will look out of place historically, right? So I think that there's that gap may be part of some other strategy for how the trim work was done, right? Like what comes to mind, and I'm going to use a phrase that nobody knows, but like a bolection molding. Like a bolection molding is basically something that like covers over something but inserts in something at the same time. And so what I was thinking at one point was maybe the gaps are some sort of receiver for a rabbit on the back of a larger piece of trim.
Yeah.
Because if you do that at the water table boards before the first clapboard, and even if you do it above the windows, the clapboards then overlapping the top of that molding, that rabbit, and the molding itself then is acting as a drip edge.
Yeah.
Like it's shedding water
Yeah.
from the clapboards over the face of whatever it is it's covering. But it wouldn't have just been like just a flat stock. It would have had some profile to it with a 1/2 inch kind of like plug on the back of it to plug into that gap. That's what it seems to me.
As an example, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where Bob said the hole is there, or the gap is there.
Right.
That indicates that it needs to have something.
Something
And
belongs
what
there,
that
but it
is
wouldn't have been
kinda-
1/2 inch because 1/2 inch was,
We wouldn't want to fabricate a fantasy or something. We're just to put in
Well,
simple.
but you
piece.
could
And
use,
a rabbit would be simple enough.
yeah, well, the rabbit is part of the larger piece of molding, right? So the molding itself, like if you took the molding that was around the door area, like the entryway, I'll call it, as an example, that was, I think you had mentioned, it was like 2 and something inches, right?
Yeah, that's the trim
Right.
that's on the
Two
window
and
flat casing
3/16.
surround,
Right.
the perimeter trim.
Yeah. So if you picture 2 and 3/16, if you emulate that, right, and you kind of stuck it onto, let's say, that head of the window, the
Yeah.
window casing, but as opposed to it just being flat on the back and just applying it, there's a 1/2 inch rabbit where it plugs into that gap, because that's critical to being able to shed the water instead of the water going behind the molding.
Yeah.
The molding itself receives the water and sheds it.
But it would have been flashed, or it should be flashed.
It should be flashed
Right.
anyway, but it seems like maybe when they built the building, they were using it as a shortcut, like maybe we don't need the flash if we can make this like molding shed situation. I don't know, but that's
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Well, I think those are the kinds of details that we need to make, solid, informed decisions. On all
Just
these
ask one
things.
quick question about that rabbit. If there was a rabbit thin that went in and then the rabbit, the rest of it came up as a bigger piece of molding across the top, would that then have blocked the
No,
paint and then you would have a paint shadow there? If it was a
yeah,
larger piece
it would have because you,
because there aren't any paint shadows up there.
well, so your molding would have been applied if this were the case on top of like, it sort of overlaps
Yeah.
the head casing, but then at the same time sits above the head casing. It's almost like if we took like, I don't know, how to sort of,
Right, we don't need to do this right now.
Yeah.
This isn't the place for this.
Okay.
so
Um,
what I'm saying is that look at the moldings that exist on the building and the condition you have existing with the consideration that like a 1/2 inch piece of trim, whether it's a cap or whatever it is, would never have been historically present
yeah,
there.
and it's too small for the
It's
weather
too small.
also. It'll disintegrate.
Yeah.
So
Is this what was
Bob
there?
had a look at it and this is what
No.
he came up with.
that's
I
a
am-
house in the neighborhood.
I have a question. Okay, so in this photo where you're showing this kind of beefy round,
Right.
That's not in, that's a different house.
How do you like that?
that's not your house?
No,
No,
No.
no, no, no.
So I'm like, what's
Good to
going
know.
on with that? Okay,
That's a group of pictures of houses that were in the area showing the type of drip edges that are applied as caps above the
Okay.
water table.
okay.
You'll see there's many, many types.
But in that case, maybe that scale is the right scale for that
Yeah,
house?
and that's why we mentioned about 1/2 inch. It's all that was.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
again, why don't we set up a meeting with Bob? Because I think
Okay.
to get into these details,
If Maya sets a date and time that's convenient for you guys, I'm pretty sure Bob can be available. I know I will. Just like we did on onsite. We could even do an onsite if you wanted.
okay.
We can do it by telephone. Probably the best by onsite.
Otherwise, we're just gonna spin our wheels.
Yep.
So, we will convene through communication
Yeah.
and
Continue.
and we'll pick a date, okay?
Very good.
And,
Move to continue.
sure. So we have a motion to
Second.
continue. Second by Eileen, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'll make another motion, set up a meeting with the preservation consultant at everybody's earliest convenience. Okay?
Yep.
Need a second?
Second.
Second by Jesse, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda, Frank No, Miles Hamrick, 501 Main Street, place 10 windows. Good evening, Miles.
Good evening, how are you all?
Good.
Good.
Thank
So
you.
I sent you, so
New,
Anderson and Pella, fiberglass windows, what do you guys think about that?
thank you. It's a big improvement over the other ones.
So this is the new map.
Oh, yeah.
79.5.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
existing head,
Mhm.
better size height.
That's the one that,
Yeah.
original.
Yeah, the original height.
Nice.
Great.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
my question was, obviously, we do all the ones in the front.
Yeah.
The ones on the side of the street.
Yes,
Is it possible, of course, we'll do new windows in the back, but could it be the existing height that's there? Or would you want it to match?
I would
Front.
prefer to see it get back to what it was.
Okay, so we'll go that max height everywhere.
Yeah, and the other is, you've been over there, right, Matt? Excuse me. You know where have you measured the floor height? Do you know where that is relative to what's there?
Oh, I have it.
Oh, yeah. How do you go below the floor?
We've done that.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, I know what that looks like.
Oh, wow.
Could be,
Oh, wow.
Okay.
14.
Okay, sorry, that was just a little sidebar.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, we have several options here, and is it just the measurements that are different, or is it the?
No, it's just
materials?
it's just Anderson versus Pella.
Oh, okay. One question I had was, is there room for framing between the windows or not?
No,
These
Okay.
might come with,
no, they're gonna come all together.
yeah.
So they'll come
Yeah.
ganged up?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, in one big frame.
one big frame, and I'll have brick molding on the exterior,
And
which is
what-
which the brick molding around the windows.
Brick?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Familiar?
the molding that ties into, essentially closes the gap between the window itself properly and covers the frame. It's a generic term, it could be a different profile, so.
Oh.
yeah,
Oh,
it's what's there now. So.
oh. All right, so is it, you're referring to the casing?
Yes, the
Okay.
casing on the exterior.
Okay.
Yep.
So they come with it? You're saying it's all
Yeah.
one integral? Okay, that's not the typical stock casings that you get,
No.
a little.
No, so the vertical between these windows is gonna be narrower than it would have been historically, because there's no weight pockets, there's no any of that kind of stuff, right? So the question is that okay? Is that not okay?
Well, we have the old photo. You have a sense of how wide that casing would be in the middle?
Should say.
Because I'm sure when this was done,
Yeah, those old photos look like a 1x4
Yeah, it looks
with a
like
piece of trim on top of it.
or at that scale, I wonder if it's 6,
No way.
right? No? You don't think?
That looks much smaller than 6 to me.
Okay,
All in
Yeah.
because
narrow.
those are big windows.
They are, but
And you
Yeah, you're right. the
kind of looks like
clapboard-
the casing goes right up to the fascia board too.
Yeah, and the clapboards are 4 inch.
Davis, look at the trim around
Yeah.
the door on the lower right. That looks like 6 inch to me.
Yeah.
Bottom right of the
Well, I'm
photo.
also looking at the clapboard, or those shingles up there. If they were clapboard, they'd be 4 inches. If they were shingles, they'd be 6 inches.
Yeah, it looks like shingles. They're decorative too.
Well, we won't get into that.
Yeah, no. Let's keep it simple, please.
Oh, my God.
We don't
We
have
lost-
jurisdiction over color, but
Okay.
if you go into the expense of spending on these expensive windows, it might be nice to get a color.
Okay.
The black, I think, is the same price as the white,
Yeah.
and it's gonna look a lot sharper.
Mhm.
Yeah, we
Just a suggestion.
Okay. Appreciate that.
All right, well, we were talking about the windows and I got sidetracked on the casing, so they're all ganged up. And
Just to backtrack, we were talking about how they're coming cased already from,
Yeah.
but that can
So
be
that's
spec.
that's a choice.
You can tell them, yeah.
Yeah,
It's not like we're giving you what you get and that's it.
Right, right, right.
You can
No.
tell them what he wants and
100%.
they'll
Okay.
do it.
Yeah, I think we might even, I don't know, you might want to test like a sample,
Mhm.
of a piece of 1x4 and a piece of 1x6, because I'm gonna put my cup of coffee on
Yeah.
6 inch
Yeah.
because of the scale.
Okay.
I think it's just deceiving, when we see it like this.
Yeah.
If those shingles are 6 inch exposure, that's what it looks like. But anyway, that's a small detail.
Well, it's small and it's not, because what's gonna happen is if he doesn't get the pre-mold unit, it's gonna be 3 windows, buying 3 individual windows, and you have to frame between the windows.
Right.
Right. So.
Yeah, I think, not to cut you off, but I think I'm just gonna order the ones that are mold together with no exterior trim and they'll just add the exterior trim after.
Well, but the issue there is that when they mold the windows together at the factory,
Yeah.
the distance between what they call the glazing distance between one sash and the other sash
Yep.
is gonna be much narrower than if you would put in individual windows.
Okay.
And so that's what I was saying, is that essentially the verticals between the 3 windows, when you buy it as a bank,
Mhm.
is gonna be probably, I'm guessing, 3 or 4 inches.
Mhm.
So if we're talking about wanting to see 6 inches on the flat alone, never mind the exposure of the sash and the brick mold, you're gonna end up with individual windows. You have to.
Would it be cheaper to buy them as individual individual windows?
It's much more expensive usually.
No, like 3 individuals as opposed to ganged up.
I think it's cheaper with it being mold.
It's gonna be more labor too.
Yeah,
Because each one has otherwise each individual would have its own frame.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to hang all 3 individuals if he buys them that way.
Yeah, then I gotta put framing in between, some type of 2x stock.
Okay, I was just
Then
curious.
if the flange goes over the another flange, I'm gonna have to pad it out. It's a lot goes into that.
So, well, what can we do tonight? Can we approve the actual window, as far as materials and dimensions?
The opening, the rough openings for sure, right?
Rough opening,
The rough openings, the window style, like the 202s, the materials, like all of the things, we just aren't sure yet whether or not this wants to be a gang mold window or if it wants to be individual windows.
or if they- I wonder when they gang them up, if you said, I want this much exposed in the middle when I'm done,
Mhm.
if they would do any shimming in there to
Yeah,
to change that dimension, to make it what you want. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
okay.
I don't know, I'm just asking.
They might have a piece. I mean, I don't remember offhand. It's been forever since I tried to detail windows out. But they might have something that's the non-standard mold joiner. Like a mold joiner, typically it's just a piece of like either reinforced fiberglass or
Yeah.
steel or aluminum even. That's just a vertical fin. Both sides of the window just kind of snap to it. Right? They might have a piece that if you're looking to emulate historic widths,
Okay.
glazing widths, they might have a piece that's instead of just a fin, it's like a tube or
Block.
something. Right? So I don't know. I don't remember offhand if
Okay.
Anderson and Pella have that kind of stuff, but they might.
Yeah,
So that they could theoretically still give you a triple wide window
Mhm.
factory mold.
yeah,
It's just the joiner is not the off the shelf fit.
okay.
Before he goes down that rabbit hole with Anderson and Pella, though, shouldn't we have a general idea of what we want that dimension to be?
Yeah,
We have to figure that out, I think.
Yeah.
Then he can find out if they,
well, we went and looked at it.
Yeah.
And when they removed these original windows, they put in shorter windows and they put in a header
I get all that. I'm talking about that vertical.
to fill it.
He's talking about the.
I'm still talking about the trim piece down the middle.
Yeah,
We need to know what we want that to be before he goes, to Jesse's point, talking to Pella and Anderson about
Well, it's
what the
gonna-
blocking options are.
It's going to be a factor of the rough opening, right? I mean,
Pretty much.
yeah. so-
Well,
Yeah, no. You just shrink the size of the width of each of the individual sashes to meet the requirements. Right? Rough opening is your rough opening. Yes, that's fixed. But the size of each of the individual sashes, I don't remember, in here, it says each individual sash, if you do a factory mold, is barely read what that number is. Looks like
Super tiny.
30 something.
Need a magnifying
So
glass.
that dimension just gets a tiny bit smaller for each window.
So if the sash is smaller, the window's bigger.
No, the sash is smaller, so the window, each window just gets a little bit narrower by an inch or 2 inches
Okay.
to accommodate the larger mold section.
So I mean, at the top, it says you've got the rough opening
Yep.
and then you've got the unit size.
Yep, that's the entire bank of 3 windows.
Right, with the frame.
Yep.
So,
So that dimension is going to stay the same. The
Right.
overalls are the same.
right,
The rough openings are the same. It's just, like I'm saying, So what happens is you give Anderson and Pella, you say, hey, I want a 3 wide window bank. My rough opening is 112 inches wide or whatever it is. And they say, okay, and they do their calculations based on the parts that they know how wide each sash needs to be, how wide each channel on sash needs to be, all that kind of stuff. And then they tell you what the center to center of the rails is based on that. And in this case, they would have just said, okay, well, we're going to give you the thinnest profile between the windows. So we're going to use our fin mulling system. And then that makes that generates the size of the window. What we're saying is, okay, we don't want that thin a profile between the windows, make it beefier. So you have to take that dimension out of the window sashes themselves horizontally.
And that being said, what he's spec'd here, he's got a 1/2 inch between the spec'd triple window and the rough opening. So maybe they've got other ones that are smaller, to your point, in that blogging can get bigger, but
It's only a 1/2 inch.
But
that's what this
That's
says. Unit size is 117 3/8 and the rough opening is 117 7/8.
That's between the
yeah,
frame and
that's just
the rough.
that's the big
Oh,
thing.
oh, oh.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's
the-
just
yeah,
the,
The
Right.
gap, yeah.
put it in
It's
the
this
hole.
number that I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
You just shim
These
that.
3 numbers.
Yeah, I put shims
That's
in
the
there.
sash
Yeah,
size.
It's gotta
That's
go in.
essentially the same
Yeah.
sash size, which
I was a builder,
in
I know.
text.
So the 3/8 is, the 117 3/8 is the entire thing.
Right.
Yeah. So what you're saying is these windows could be different sized.
Yeah.
To accommodate that.
Yeah.
Larger center divider.
Yeah.
Which would allow for the proper trim.
Yeah.
Down the middle of the 3. So how we get there?
Well, it's a matter of really, if you have a manufacturer in mind, what you do, just check on whether or not they can do that at the factory.
Mhm.
And if not, then we're talking about 3 individual window units.
All right. Let's table that part of the discussion for a second. Let's get into the actual windows and the materials and the components, okay? These are the Fibrex, you said, is that right?
Yes. It's fiberclad
Mhm.
with the wood interior.
Yep.
Which one are you, well, they're pretty much.
Well, I'm
both
just
the
starting
same.
at the beginning, so,
Yeah, pretty much both. the same.
okay.
Just one's Anderson and one's Pella.
Do you have a preference?
I've always used Pella. Probably more than likely to go with Pella.
And is this, I don't see any profiles. Is this what they call, simulated divided light? So it has the piece on the inside, the piece on the outside, and the piece in the middle.
Yeah, I don't see too much details myself, but
It's
like
the Anderson.
they put the description in the back. From the photo that it shows, I mean, so tiny I can barely see
I
it
know,
with my glasses.
me too. We're in the same boat.
The Anderson does say it.
Mhm.
The Anderson one does say it.
It says stainless glass grill spacer, which I think is talking about the
Oh, yeah, I see it here
the
too.
divider between the 2 muntins, internal and external,
Yeah.
exterior and interior.
You see that on the first page?
Yep.
It's all-
Towards the bottom of that paragraph, it says grill spacer.
Right.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh, okay.
Exterior grill bar,
Yeah.
interior grill bar. Yep.
7H.
So that says it. I don't see it on the other one though.
Grill space or two.
Oh wait, maybe it's back here with all these
Yeah,
descriptions.
with all this.
Yeah, the Pella is
Specs.
yeah, simulated spacer.
Mhm.
Boy.
Down here.
It's stay with clear glass as well.
Hmm.
Not the glass that has the low E.
You know,
Stay
turn,
with clear glass.
turn it,
Yeah.
That's the same as the
Yeah.
Anderson, right?
looks purple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, except I think the Anderson's a true. Oh, they said true glass? Yeah, oh, then definitely.
Does it say it on there?
Well, I
At
think
the bottom
Anderson
of
says
page
Oh, at the bottom right there,
Ford.
that's where I was kind of looking.
They have simulated.
Oh, yeah, SDL. There it is,
Okay,
with spacer.
all right, so, okay, so we have dimensions, materials, design, specs, right, so far?
Yeah,
Yes.
And really, the only question is that spacing in between. If, I don't know if you can find out from the contract, from the supplier.
From the vendor. Okay, so you just want the spacing in between
See
each
if it's,
window?
see if it's adjustable
Okay.
for your spec. In other words, if you want it 4 inches or you want it 6 inches, does that affect? Can it still be ganged up as a 3-window unit,
Okay.
right?
And what does it come with? What? Once it's a 3-window unit? What's
Yeah.
the spacing?
Well,
What's the
we
current
don't know
spacing?
exactly.
We
That's
don't
the
know.
problem.
Okay, okay.
So, and we're not 100% sure of what it should be. So
Well, here's the,
when I look at the photo, I have a sense, when you're looking at a building of that scale, and I see the size of the shingle reveal.
on the other hand, these look very similar. Like they were ganged.
Well, but they wouldn't have done that back then.
But look
They
at-
didn't have
But the
Home
look of
Depot.
them.
Oh, I know,
but the
that's why
look
we're
of
doing
them
it.
As opposed to these three separate.
Right, right.
It's gonna be very, I think it's gonna be very similar. to that.
Oh, it is, yeah. Yeah, the only question is the width of the casing around the outside.
Is
So-
there something, can you give him a proportion, or do you need to be exact on the dimensions?
Well, it's probably either 4 or 6, right? And
Well,
Yeah.
if you look at this.
I mean, we can
outside,
still,
that
I mean,
is
it's up to
60.
you guys. We can still purchase the window without the casing. Then meet and see what we can get.
But you want to call the manufacturer first to find out what that, it's, because really the only ones for their concern is in between the 3. Those
Yeah.
two
Okay.
vertical, right? Because all
Two
the
sides.
other casings, you can do whatever you
Yeah.
want,
Then you
right?
could-
Mhm.
but
So,
in between,
but they should all be the same.
Yes.
So that's all I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
So if it's 6 inch, then they should all be 6 inch,
Okay.
or whatever it turns out to be. I'm just trying to figure out a way to sleuth that out.
Yeah.
Because I'm just, like I said, my hunch is looking at the scale of the building and look at the size of those windows, that those are 6 inch casings. So, if, I don't know if they could take like, this type of a illustration
Mhm.
and drop a scale casing around it
Mhm.
and send it to you,
Mhm.
like at 4 inches and at 6 inches, maybe?
Okay.
They probably could do that.
Think they could do that?
I mean, I'll ask.
I bet they could.
I'm not gonna say what they can. and
No, I
can't
know,
do.
but, and then, I think we can approve it. And, if you want to leave it to Jesse or somebody, Jesse's an architect,
Okay.
to make that final call, or, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want to overspeak the,
I was just while you guys were chatting, looking through Anderson's
Yeah,
options. It
we
looks
know
like
the units
Anderson in
are
particular
6.
doesn't offer.
And we know there's gonna be 3 windows.
Yeah.
You-
Okay.
so you should be able to wide,
uh,
So you're saying Anderson doesn't have
They,
that
they
option?
don't have the option to make a different
So that
profile
means.
in the factory. You'd have to join them
mullion
yourselves.
or casing?
Mullion. So you're talking about the spacing between the windows to get there. So
Right.
what's happening is when you bring Anderson windows out to site, in order to get that dimension, the windows have to be a certain distance apart.
Right.
So that filler unit that will make that piece and put all 3 together in the factory. What will happen is they'll send out 3 windows and say, okay, go ahead, you make that distance, whatever you want.
Right. But we're trying to see if they can still gang it up and still accommodate potentially different widths in between.
Potentially, you just have to make sure that your window sashes were not so big that you couldn't show them left and right. You know what I mean? So this window sash, if you make it, this window sash is ordered such that it just fits a 4-inch mullion flat in between each of the sashes. If you say, okay, well, now we want it to be 6, well, tough, because now the windows are the
Well, that's why I'm
same.
saying he's gonna ask, he's gonna inquire to see if they can accommodate that
But I guess I'm
before they get even ordered. That's my point. Because once you're ordered, they're done. It is whatever it is. It might only be 3 inches. You know, might be 2 inches. So,
yeah.
Excuse me, can't we figure this out? If we look at the second line in this description, it talks about windows, three windows that are 3 1/8. Maybe I'm not reading this right, but isn't there a way to figure out if we have the individual window size, how much spacing there is between the second, both sides of the middle window? Maybe I'm just not reading this correct.
I don't know. Why don't we just leave it that you'll inquire and see what
Okay,
they can
so-
do, right? We can, approve the size of the individual window, right? And maybe not even,
No, you can't. That's what I'm
because
saying. You
that may
can't.
be adjustable, that may be adjusted to accommodate the casing, is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I mean, windows aren't adjustable, right? Like they're the size that they are. You can't adjust the glass, right? So you have to get the dimension right from edge of window sash to edge of window sash. And so it's a mathematical thing, right? If your rough opening is 117, let's call it 118 inches, right? And you say you want 6 inches, appearance of 6 inches between the windows, you have to do the math. So you take the 12 inches from your rough opening, so now you're left with 106 inches roughly. Divide that by 3. You know, you got to do the math.
But to my point earlier, why are we doing that and researching that
So
if
the
we don't know
exterior-
what we want to tell him the dimension of that divider should be in terms of the mullion? We should figure that out first. Is it 4 or is it 6? There's no point in having him talk to
That's
Pell
what I
and
was gonna ask,
Anderson.
because he's saying.
What-
the
what is that
exterior
window?
Trim, and you're saying the mulliing in the middle. So what?
Yeah,
It's the
I'd call it a casing, but
It's casing, but the
Yeah.
casing is covering up the mold space.
well, it's covering up the frame between the space, the
Yeah,
space between the two
historically,
frames.
it would have covered up the frame plus the weight pockets.
Mr. Chairman,
Exactly,
if I may,
yes.
so I don't believe that this can be decided tonight, what
Right.
you're looking for.
Right.
I hate to just waste everyone's
No,
time,
Yeah,
but there's 2 ways of doing this. One is what you're asking is to go to the manufacturer and have them produce this and bring it on site, or the contractor could do it on site. They could buy 3 individual windows and do the mathematical equation, figure out what you have for trim, what you're gonna have in the middle, and craft it on site. So I just don't want this to keep going on. because
Yes.
It's,
We
I would-
addressed that earlier. The question was, that's going to cost more than
right.
having them come ganged already.
So it's my recommendation that I would have the contractor, have his manufacturer go out there, draw up what this would look like, and then they'll put a CAD drawing together to bring to you
Yep.
with that exact
Yep.
dimensions that you're looking for.
That sound all right?
Sounds good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we could just say yes.
At least I have something to go with. I mean,
Yeah, no, this is a great window. We got the product, we got the design.
Yep.
We got everything else. So if we can, see if they'll do, like I said, basically just that, showing the casing, and see if they'll do it with a 4-inch casing and a 6-inch casing.
okay.
Does that sound? And then we can, we're gonna have, I think, a special meeting with Henry anyway, so we'll, we don't have to wait another month.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
All right?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, Miles.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Thank you very
Appreciate it,
much.
Miles.
Yeah.
Thank you for your
Good night.
patience.
Okay, we need a motion.
I move that we continue this meeting until such time as we can get 2 renderings from Anderson representing 4-inch and 6-inch casing options.
Beautiful. Okay, we have a motion. We have a
I don't think
second.
it's Anderson. I think it's whatever vendor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever vendor.
Okay,
Second.
Second by Eileen, all in favor?
all right.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Okay. next. Judith Wright, Representative Thomas Marchand, 803 Main Street, replace window trim siding due to emergency. Hey, Tom.
Hi.
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for your drawing. And your
It's
notes.
sufficient.
I'm glad to see you're going to be casing in all of that, all the pressure treated
Yeah.
lumber around the porch there. I know it's not historic. Clapboard to be 4-inch on center. I mean, it's 4-inch
Yep,
reveal.
matching what was there.
I have a question.
Sure.
So in this diagram here.
Yep.
I realize that you've kind of already put this in. But I'm wondering, this wouldn't have been what we would have recommended. But can you drop it so that it lines up with that window?
The header did not change, so all the tops of the windows are still lined up. Because the window was smaller, it got built up to that point.
So it's just a rendering.
Yeah, so we're saying it's the header here.
The header never
It's the
changed.
same
It
as
all lines up,
All the height, yeah.
but it
so
just
that-
doesn't look like it in the photo.
in the drawing. Yeah. This isn't.
Oh,
grading.
okay, okay,
This is a computer.
all right.
It might be more visible in that photo.
Compared to what was there. Worlds apart.
Oh, yeah,
Well, but we had already reviewed and approved the window. right?
yeah, yeah,
That was one of the ones I wasn't here.
yep, yep.
Never mind.
So you guys did address the window after the fact?
No, we had already approved that.
the
Three-
only thing
3
that
months
we
ago?
were,
I thought that was already in before they came.
It
to us.
was.
There was no approval of that
it was-
window.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was installed prior to coming to the board.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So that's just, is what it is at this point?
Well,
Well-
it's not, as you can see, I don't know if you can see what was there.
Yep.
Which is not original.
It's, yeah, it's just an addition. I don't even know how old that addition is.
Okay.
And it is the side of the house.
So I think
I mean,
we,
like I said, if we had had the choice, that would not have been what we would have approved, but
I think we all looked at it and,
Yeah, I think we approved it right after the fact.
yeah, it wasn't,
And did you say that you matched the moldings to the front of the house, to the side?
yeah,
Around the
so they're
windows?
matched, yep.
You
So
did.
Do the band molding, yeah.
Okay,
so here,
Everything's staying the same, it's
okay.
being replaced.
So the 2 new windows going in on the back, it just says to match. So are you matching the 3
The
windows
existing
that
what
were?
was there. We would
that were
try to
there.
order the true divided lights that you guys suggested.
I just want to make sure it wasn't matching the 3 that just went in
No,
the front.
no,
Okay, thank
no.
you.
The original ones that were there.
yeah, I don't know how old, these sheds are not old. I don't know how old they are.
No, they don't look very old
They're
at all.
just thrown on. So I think it's gonna be a big improvement.
Improvement.
It's just falling apart. Other questions, comments? Anybody want to make a motion?
I move that we accept the proposed project as presented.
And we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second it, just with the caveat that I would hope that in the future, they would get a building permit ahead of time. Because it puts us in a really tough position.
I got you.
That's true, of any work, not just historic.
Yes,
That's,
yeah,
I understand it's an emergency, but you still gotta pull a permit.
Again, I wasn't,
yeah. Mhm.
I know you weren't
there's
involved.
more to the story,
I
so I
know.
won't get into detail.
Okay, we have a motion, and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Just in case.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks, Tom. Good luck.
appreciate it.
Okay, next, David and Marie Coyne, 6 Campbell Street. Replace 2 windows, entry door, and siding. Good evening, Dave.
Hello.
To see you folks again.
How are you?
My name is Jeff Ramos, I represent Marshall
All
Building.
right, I thought you were Dave. I'm sorry. Okay, you wanna tell us about this project?
Okay, so this house is in the historic district. Have the date in front of me as to when it was built, but it's fairly new. Not,
1950s?
yeah, 50s or
57.
60s, I think, so I wouldn't expect that it's a historically significant property. The customers do want to do vinyl siding, which I know is not a popular choice, but unfortunately, they tell me what to bring before you folks, and I bring it. So the door, I think, is basically replaced in kind. That's not an issue. The
Nice looking
windows-
door.
The windows are in the garage. The rest of the windows in the house are vinyls.
Yep.
So I guess the biggest question would be if you folks are okay with installing the vinyl.
So the only photos they provided were very far away. So it's really hard to gauge, and there's no description of the conditions of the shingles.
The shingles are, they're
Um,
not horrible, but they would need a significant amount of, prep work if they were to be painted again. There is some rot on one side of the house, and I think they just don't want to deal with maintenance on the house anymore.
Yeah, it almost looks like part of it was painted and part of it's natural. Is that right?
Yeah, it is, that's correct. So
Okay.
the natural stuff is in kind of tough shape, and the paint is.
It looks like white cedar.
Yep.
Um,
The plan is to put and I did bring some vinyl samples of the cedar looking
Right.
shingles on the front of the house and then clapboard style on the 3 sides.
Oh, that's interesting. Usually it's the other way around.
Yeah, unfortunately with the, that's kind of a trend and it has more to do with the cost of material than anything else.
More to do with what?
Cost of
Cost.
material.
Oh,
So
okay.
the vinyl shingles are
More expensive.
more than double the cost of average vinyl. So in years past, they would put the shingles on the sides and then the clapboard, which was more expensive on the front.
Right, right.
That has been.
When they were wood.
Yeah.
Okay. Comments, questions from the board?
Which 2 windows is it?
The 2 in the garage.
So there's one's on the side of the garage, correct? And one's on the back of the garage,
Correct. That's
right?
correct, yeah.
Neither one of which are visible from the street.
No.
Right? I would say my only comment on those was that you'd match the grill.
I don't believe there's any,
What's that?
I don't have that paper in front of me. but
I think the garage one's a
There's
6 over 6, if it is this.
Yeah,
one.
the rest of the house
Yeah.
is 6/6, so,
Okay, we would match the, we normally just match the grid patterns.
yeah, just, it's a small thing. The front door, is that like in the kitchen, or is that like,
Right,
the
that's a
formal front door?
I think that's a side door. I think it's the side door that's.
because there's no photo in the packet
Yeah, you can't tell what door that's.
where,
It's not the front door.
oh, it's not the formal front door.
Correct.
Is the front door under that breezeway? Like, can you not really see it from the street?
Correct.
It's hard to tell what the front of the house is because it's on
Yeah,
the
you
corner
can't,
lot.
it's just, and it's buried behind this tree.
But you're looking at the driveway, right? So that's the front.
So is the formal front door
I don't have those.
right next to right here, next to the garage? Right there?
Yeah,
Okay, but it's inside, like in a breezeway kind of thing?
because it faces Campbell Street, right?
Right,
Yeah.
so there's no other formal front doorway? Okay. Okay, so the door, it's not, it's not
We
even,
haven't
it's not even
been-
visible from the outside, right? Yeah. Yeah, and the other, one of the bad things about vinyl is it traps, as you know, it can trap the moisture and cause more rotting.
Well, we haven't been approving vinyl siding on any houses
In the district,
since,
yeah.
yeah, in the district.
It just is what will happen is we'll go, oh, you let him do it,
Let
you
him do
can't
it,
let me
right?
do it.
Well, and it does sort of, even though this individual house might not be significant, although I would say
That's,
It's
in
location.
my
is-
work, this is sort of mid-century modern,
Yeah.
and that is very much considered worth preserving
Agreed.
these days. It's happened in the last 10 or 15 years,
Mhm.
but unfortunately, they waited a little too long, because I think it might now be more
Well, I mean, the
significant.
other options obviously would be to strip the wood and replace in kind.
So does the whole house need that?
Probably, I would say, by the time you do the prep work on what you don't strip, you're gonna be in the same.
I mean, would they just, because it looks like the front is natural, or at least the front facing
Yeah,
Main
and then
Street.
they painted the other,
What's that?
they painted some of the other sides. So,
Some of the other sides.
I mean, it's just kind of a mishmash. So
It
Yeah.
is right now.
That's
yeah.
why I don't think that it would make sense to do a portion of it. I think if you were gonna replace the wood shingles, it would make sense just to do the whole thing.
Personally,
Um,
that's what I would like to see, in keeping with what was there originally, and in keeping with the materials that we're trying to encourage in the whole district.
Mhm.
And the neighbors,
Yeah.
yeah, that street.
Yeah, it's a really nice street. And the same with the trim, the woodwork,
The
um,
woodwork, I think, I mean, they
Just-
put the project together with the idea of making it maintenance free. So that follows that the woodwork would get. I don't think the woodwork is in that bad a shape.
so that can be painted.
I don't think that would be an issue.
Um, So one positive on the woodwork if they paint it, and the shingles if they either repair it,
Repair or
replace it,
in kind.
paint it, all those things would all be
The other-
eligible for the tax.
Tax
credits.
credits.
Okay, and the
Okay,
only
so-
other option is hardy. Is that something that you consider in the district or not?
Not on that house.
Yeah. No, I mean, when you look at that photo, I mean, it's, like I said, from a distance, it looks fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might put a coat of cuprinol on it,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But as long as the shingles are intact,
sure.
I mean,
We just power washed ours after 25 years and it's unbelievable how good it
Yeah.
looks.
I mean,
Power washing works great.
it does. And you'll find out when you power wash,
What's
the
loose
shingles are
and
good
what's
and
not.
which ones are not, right?
Exactly.
So, okay,
All right, so I
what's the
guess-
pleasure of the board? Go ahead.
I guess we could approve the doors and the windows,
Yeah.
and then I can go back and say, your options are repair the existing or replacing that.
Yeah.
The windows on the house that have been replaced already, I assume are
Vinyl,
They're all vinyl.
not true divided light, not
Probably
simulated
not.
divided light.
I doubt it.
No, just
So we're not gonna manage that on this.
Not on the
Well,
garage.
these are two small windows on the
Yep.
garage on the back, so
Fair enough.
I don't know.
Makes sense.
You wanna,
Nope.
in 20 years, when they come back and they're falling apart,
I'm not coming back. in 20 years.
They'll all be gone.
when the vinyl's all split and whatever, we can do them
I
all at
don't think I'll
once.
be here either.
I got a couple left, that's about it.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion? All right, hearing none, I'll make the motion.
Go for it.
sorry, I was thinking.
I move to approve the 2 windows for the garage to match the other existing windows in the house, including the grill,
Including the kids, yes.
the front entry door, which is inside the breezeway, is submitted. That the, and I'll just, why don't we, how can we do this? We can give them an approval. And then
To repair or replacing.
to repair or replace it?
Yeah.
The shingles?
Can, yes.
Mhm.
In fact,
And then you
the
can,
owner doesn't want it and come back.
Yeah, if he wants to contest it somehow or whatever. So, okay, and then that the trim would be painted and that the shingles would be either repaired or replaced
In kind.
in kind, right? And that both those latter 2 parts of it would be eligible for the tax credits.
Okay.
And so if you wanted the tax credits, you would need to submit an estimate to Maya,
Correct. yeah.
okay?
do you have any idea what it might cost for, we could approve the ballpark if you had any idea.
Yeah, I got
No.
Like a high end,
Okay.
like a high number.
I had-
Yeah, I know, that's fine. I
All
know.
right.
Materials
Fair
are
enough.
crazy, I know. Okay. So, and I'll, with the caveat that that you submit the estimate
Correct.
For tax
to Maya,
credits.
No
okay?
problem, absolutely.
That sound good, everybody?
Yes,
You want to make a second?
I second that.
Second by Eileen, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great, thanks a lot.
Thanks. Great to
Thank
see
you.
So if client doesn't want to take that option, so on the new application, I can come back for the one.
If he wants, yeah, but
If
it's,
you want. I'm just saying, what they approved is what they approved tonight.
Right.
Anything different, you have to come back. with the application.
Right. Right.
As of right now, you're saying, no,
That's
Right.
right.
correct. Yeah, just want to make sure. that you know that.
okay, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, Wagenbach LLC, 183 Water Street. Build a rear deck and screen porch. Hi. Good, how are you?
Good.
Okay, well, thanks for submitting that photo, because I was
Yeah. we were
having a
trying to
little
figure-
hard
really
time.
helps.
It's a
Trying
very
to
odd
visualize
condition.
that.
Yeah, it's an odd condition. It's up in the roof
Right,
Right,
of basically the
Yeah.
wood shop next door to Jack's Bar.
right, right.
right.
You really
Oh.
can't
Yeah.
see it.
You won't even see it from the street,
Yeah.
right?
You can't see it for footprint.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I went to the back of the parking lot, you hit it by the back corner. of the
You
building.
still won't see it, yeah.
Okay.
Not that it's even a bad design, I mean,
Paula just wanted. it. You know, I
Yeah.
see what I-
yeah, of course.
I think it looks.
And the building official has reviewed the plans as
Yeah.
far as the construction,
Yeah, the
it's all solid,
construction
okay?
is-
Because it was a lot to
It's a
it.
quirky job.
Well, yeah, 'cause
Coming down
I'm-
the Roof,
Now that I see the roof, I thought the roof was flat,
Right.
but it's pitching in,
right.
And it
So-
drains properly?
So
That's
it's gonna
wild.
be all a rubber roof pitching
I
and
see.
draining properly. So basically.
so
the
it's gonna
roof
drain
that's
under
covered-
the porch, even just the way
Yeah.
it is?
So the porch will be all rubber roof with sleepers and then the decking boards on top. And then a roof over it, like the picture.
What's the access to the porch? I don't see a door.
So, yeah, so windows coming out, it's gonna be a door. Yep, it's like in a little, you come to the top of the stairs, it's just like a little sitting area. It's,
Is that in the drawing?
That one
I believe I had.
Yeah, I
two
think so.
drawings, one with the window and
Yeah,
one with the door.
with the door, yeah,
An
that's,
Existing condition and then.
that's the window closest to the corner. This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So see, like where this wall is, really, that's the street side. So
Right,
you can't see that. from
Right,
the
right,
wall,
right.
and that-
yeah, that's the side of the bar.
like I said, it's a-
Yeah, and she lives up there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Paula lives, yeah.
So the doorway, are you putting in where the window is? You're not changing the width of that opening.
Nope, nope,
So if somebody wanted to come back at some point and put the window sill back in, they could.
they could.
To
And
the,
I mean, I can trim that door all as that window is now.
yep.
Because that is a.
Yeah, it's got the molding on top and everything. I
Yeah.
don't even know, if you can leave that or not, but. And then you'll tie it into the roof with the gable, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And so will the water go under the porch and still drain like it does now on the roof?
Yeah,
So
so
that-
it-
so
it'll be
it'll be
screened, it'll
suspended.
rain through the screens, it come through the deck and come onto the rubber roof. The
Okay.
way it is now, the water.
I don't, I still don't know dimensionally how that works, because this thing's gonna be, if you're trying to fit it under that roof line,
It might be a short door
quite short.
if you're not
Much
gonna,
bigger than the window.
well, but we don't know where the floor is because.
No,
this-
but you're not cutting into the existing roof of.
Right, yeah, you're not cutting into the
Yeah.
the soffit and all that,
So.
right?
No,
For
well,
these-
so the soffit now, I was gonna align the fascias.
Yeah.
I would like to just bring that all in square, but the soffit on the house is angled. So if you guys want me to angle it, to tie it in, to keep it the same.
Underneath that, it's angled?
Yeah, so like the soffit isn't a level soffit, it's at the angle of the roof.
Mhm.
Oh,
You can't see it
oh, I
because you're
see.
looking at
Oh.
the fascia, but if
Oh,
you went
because
up
it's-
the side of
Because
it-
it's fastened to the underside of the framing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't box it
So I
down.
was gonna bring my box soffit right into the fascia, but if you want it to be, you know, look like the house with the tilted soffit, I can do that.
Sure. I mean, like I said, it's not gonna be visible, really.
The molding's pretty heavy on the existing, it's probably like a good 3-inch bed mold,
Yep,
maybe even a crown.
yeah, yeah.
That
probably.
might be a little heavy on the porch, because it's not so grand.
Yep,
I was gonna maybe go with like a 1.75 or a 2 1/4
2.5
bed,
or something.
because they don't meet, the beds
Yeah,
don't meet. you
Okay.
know, So.
Any other comments, questions?
Yep, I think that's fine.
So you Are you not gonna see this from the street then?
No.
You really
It's just
can't.
like another cable kind of going.
No,
on.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the
When
house,
it's done, you can all come over. It's
It's
crazy.
very
fast.
secret.
it's Jack's bar, so it's the house that Jack built, right?
It's Jack, yeah. And we have to go into the workshop next door and cut some of the roof and then put footings and frame the deck. It's
Yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
interesting job.
Well, he'll be watching it.
He'll keep an eye
Nice
on it.
wonky.
You guys, any other questions, comments?
Just one question, like the materials, I wanted me to list them. I didn't know if all
Yep.
that stuff's okay. Timber tack,
Yeah, it looks good.
composite decking, composite railings.
Yep.
that
Yep.
acceptable.
It's
Yeah, I
gonna be
think-
mahogany on the,
I was gonna make the screen panels out of
Yeah.
mahogany,
Nice.
Yeah.
I think my only thing would be that it's reversible. In other words, like somebody said,
Oh, if you ever had to.
20 years, 50 years, somebody wants to just tear it off. We
Gotcha.
haven't wrecked the original building. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
So,
Yep. I mean, the roof's all an overlay.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
everything.
reversible.
Yeah. it
you know.
is. I wouldn't want to, but yeah.
I understand that. None of us will be here probably. All right, anybody else? Comments, questions? Somebody want to make a motion?
I motion to accept the 183 Water Street as presented.
Okay.
Thank you for waiting to.
Yeah.
Anybody else for a second?
Second.
Second by Carol. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it.
All will be very happy.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
thank you.
Okay, last but not least, 10 Brown Street. Rebecca Pivot. Replace front entry door, basement door, rear storm door, and rear entry stairway. Hi, just so you know, the stairway is inside, so it's not,
Yes.
you don't have jurisdiction over there.
Yep.
so. The only guy who has jurisdiction over that is sitting over there. Okay, you want to tell us about your project?
Okay, so we are replacing the front entry door with a skylight. Should match existing. We're going with a fiberglass entry door and replacing the trim with PVC. Looks like it's currently capped in aluminum. Trying to fake a brick mold, so we'll do brick mold PVC. The rear basement door is currently a smooth panel steel door. We're going to replace that with a smooth panel fiberglass door. And we're going to raise the curb for water drainage in front of it. Do an ADA sill on it. That is also Here's the coil, and we'll replace that with PVC. The final exterior is the rear storm door. We're gonna replace that with a full view storm door.
Okay, I'm just pulling up a current photo of the house.
Not just this.
Yeah, I was just trying to get a sense of the house itself.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's such a strange, was that, obviously that side light wasn't there originally. Must have just been a regular door, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's
I've
hard.
never seen a house that had just one side light.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah, I have it. It's not incredibly uncommon, but I would say that's probably been redone in the late 90s.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. I'm gonna even guess it might have even had like a portico.
Possibly.
You know.
Looks like the whole house has been.
Seems like a lot of
sided.
space, right?
This house has been through a bunch.
This is the house.
Oh.
See all the space above the door? I'll bet there was a portico there at one
Yeah.
time.
I'm sure there's a lot of things going on.
At one time. So, my only comment on the door would be, could it match the 6 panel
Yeah,
It will, yes.
instead of
Instead of this design,
that design?
Is that what we have?
that's what you
spec'd in?
have in there.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
thanks.
Rooted.
Yeah, I think that would
your,
be a lot more in keeping.
Okay, so stick to the 6-panel design.
Yeah, the raised panel. Yeah, it's a good door. And then my only other comment would be that the side light be divided like it currently is.
Okay.
So it doesn't look modern. You know what I mean?
True divided or would Gris be?
Well, I would say true divided if possible, or
looks like it's true
simulate,
divided
or
now, isn't it?
simulated.
Simulated divided.
You know.
Okay.
I know it would probably be thermopane. But yeah, that looks so contemporary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Even though none of it's historic, I understand that. So that's my comment on that. The back door didn't print, but it's just a flush panel, right? It doesn't,
Yeah, it's just a flat.
it didn't really print out.
yeah.
This is what we got. So,
It's a great
It's
job.
just a gray
It's
shadow,
just a slab.
just a slab.
I'm sure at one time it was probably a beaded wood door. If it, a bulkhead.
Yeah, right. Any other comments or questions from the board?
No, I agree with the 6 panel and
Agreed.
dividing that side.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion?
Move that we accept the application with the change that the design of the front door be a 6-panel as opposed to what was in the package.
And then the side light,
And side light
Be
needs to be
divided.
divided, simulated. Divided light.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, any completed projects? Oh, I'm sorry, for the record. Yeah, thank you. Any completed projects?
I think it's just-
Maya?
Big windows, brutal.
Any comments from board members? Jesse? Yes. Tell the board what you're up to?
I'm moving. I'm gonna try and make it to next month's meeting, but if I do, that'll be my last. Relocating to North Carolina.
Really gonna miss you.
So I plan to still participate in focus groups around the application, other things that you guys might need help with, but
That would be great.
Yeah,
Yep, it would.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, thanks for all your contributions.
Thanks
yeah,
for
it's
your
been great.
couple of years of service. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Okay, Administrative matters, anything you guys, anything we should know about?
Well, I did want to ask about some of the boarded up storefronts on Child Street. If there's any action on that?
Would you be referring to the building in the corner of Child and Main?
Well,
Because I
one,
know that's one of them. I don't,
The second one.
the second one,
Yeah.
second storefront in,
Next one in.
A little-
next to the Shake Shop, you know, the smoothie store.
It's a little standalone building.
No,
no,
no, it's
that's
not. You're
actually
right.
part of, that's all one building.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you're
all
right,
one
you're right,
building.
you're right.
yes.
That the truck hit?
That's
Is
when
that
the
why
the
it's-
truck hit and I do have to reach out to them. I know that I have another project right now that was an insurance project, and it seems for some reason lately insurance projects are taking forever. But I'm working with the building owner for on another building that they own, so I'll get an answer next month.
Yeah, well, I just heard from one of the tenants that was starting to move in there and asked if it was gonna get fixed up and could she still rent it? And basically the response was, no, I'm not gonna fix anything. So, you know, it's been like this since when,
It's over a year.
Yeah. it's been
Over a
at least
year. yeah,
it was-
it
it
looks
was-
really derelict.
Mhm. I'll address that this week. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? You want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
A second, all in favor?
Alright.
Everybody?